Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle function.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Mission Control on a sunshiny but cool day here in Denver, Colorado. I hope it's nice where you are. So how's everyone doing out there today? I see that we've got most of the usual suspects with us today. Hey, Sam and Marco and Arrow and good old Corey, Jay, and Tom. Glad to see you all joining us once again. So today we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about today? Show import, the show library, and fixture mapping. Then we'll go through the user settings after that. So let's start off with show library and import. And if we go on over here to our, let's see here, actually, let's see what our first slide is. Let's go with that. Show library is a place to quickly find all elements of your show, helpful when switching console types to find playbacks and other items. When unassigning items, they will appear here. Pre-built macros can be found here quickly. So let's go over to the mobile here and poke a bit at that. So I've got the same show file I've been using for a while up here now. If we do open workspace window and we will search for show, or we can just type in show, so I got a keyboard handy here, I can get down and narrow it down to the show library. Oops. And apparently the computer's being a little slow this morning, or this afternoon, I mean. We see here in our show library, we've got everything in our console. We narrow it down by using the filters here down the left-hand side. But we see we've got our beams page of palettes, our color palettes, our effects palettes, some of the factory content, our fixtures pages for the dimmers, the back wall, the rig, the QPix wall, and then our groups, and then our playbacks and what's on each of the page. You can see we've got a BPM master and our scene master on there, as we can see down here. Stuff that's on page 2. It's in our fixtures windows page, our position playbacks page, our statics playback, and then everything that's unassigned. So, you may have noticed, like here, since we had a Grandmaster and we unassigned it, it's here in this category. You may have noticed when we were, we'll narrow it down by playbacks to show this real quick here. If we were to delete one of these playbacks down here, if we're to go to delete it, so if we hit delete and select one of our playbacks, and then instead of hitting confirm on the soft keys, we hit unassigned handles. Basically what unassigned handles does, instead of deleting whatever it is, it gets it out of the way. And so instead of having it, on a playback or just sitting in a way, we just get rid of it and move it off to that show library. So if we open up our show library window, we now see we have an unassigned category and we have that playback sitting there. When things are in the show library, we can still fire them. So if I make this window to where we can see capture, where is capture right now? I think it's right there. If I click on this playback, it fires. And we actually see it in our full version of capture also. And we see that just clicking on that playback in the playbacks window, even if it's unassigned, will still fire it. Or we can fire any of these playbacks here the same way. By clicking on it, we can see it looked like I raised the fader here, but it just fires and plays this playback. So that's kind of handy if you've taken something and moved it off to the unassigned category and you just don't want it in your way anymore, that you can just move it off into here instead of getting rid of it. And of course, we can always just move it back by clicking move and putting it back to where it was to start with. It's not mostly I quit forgetting. It was that I didn't know that the Facebook videos archives were so low res until I didn't. And I didn't start it today. So let's actually start recording now. Shoot. So we'll start recording this from now. We'll be a little late on it today. Or it might just load up from the slow one. Or the low res one, since I forgot it again, but everything in today is not going to be super neat of high res anyways. But the real reason before is because the YouTube videos, I didn't realize the Facebook videos were going to be so low res until I started the YouTube page, and then found that out and was going to try to start remembering recording them, and I got distracted and forgot because I didn't want to do too much pre-record roll on the recording because it just means more editing work I have to do. So that's why I messed that up. So we may just upload the low res version on this one again. So I'll decide at the end of the video. Anyways, moving on. So that's how we see with our show library, we can delete things rather than deleting things if we use unassigned, we can go back in here and find them here. Again, we can narrow things down in our show file between whatever we want. Even to the macros, you can see all of the pre-built macros in the show file. Things like our palette fades, our palette overlaps. Those are some of my more favorites. You can bring up the mobile wing window. And again, you can fire any of these macros from here. So if I was to click, what's a good one to start for this one? We'll do the timecode window. So I click the timecode window, we see that it opens up the timecode window straight away just from inside the macro library here. Or I can change anything else. So again, handy to be able to fire stuff just straight from in here. So let's switch back over to that's basically everything in the show library, not much more to talk about that in here. These other tabs across here, mapper we're going to talk about in a minute. Users, we can change if we have more than one user in the show file, which currently we don't, we could get to them here, as well as our key profiles like we saw yesterday. We can get to from in here in the show library also. And the users, adding users and all that, we'll do in a video next week. I believe that's going to be Monday's video. So let's talk about show import by switching over here real quick. Show import. The show import feature allows you to choose information from other show files to reuse in your current show. You can reuse whole groups of fixtures or just the information such as palettes and playbacks. There are two main parts to this feature: importing items and fixture mapping. To get to the import show options, press disk, import show, and then select the show file and import. The show library window will appear where you can view items in that show file to import. If you're already in the show library, like we already are, we can import by clicking the import show button in the upper right hand corner. Fixture must be mapped first to import items. We wanted to import items directly from a previous show file. You would need to select the fixtures from the show library window and then choose the handles for them to map onto. To do this, press the move and then select the items you wish to choose to move to the new handle. Once you have imported the fixtures, you can then import any related global items to the fixtures and use them straight away. You can use quick import to have the console automatically assign a fixture or items to the next available handle. And we'll show all this. Let's go ahead and show all that now. So if we have the show library window open, we can just click import show on here, but we can also, if we went to disk, import show, and then chose a show to import from, we can just pick it from our list here, or we can click import show here, and then pick a show. This could be a good one to choose from. I don't have my usual import show on this computer right now, so we'll just pick this one, which is that little 10 fixture show I've been working with, and we'll go ahead and import that. And we'll see that the first thing it brings up is our fixture mapper. Now, when we go to import something into Titan from an old show file, we have to tell Titan what fixtures we want in the old show to do to our current show, so that we know that, if this fixture is supposed to pan and tilt like this and be in this color and this playback or this palette or whatever, so we have to tell it to relate. Now, you don't have to use the same fixture types, so it doesn't have to be a spot mapped to a spot. You could do an import just like we did with Exchange. You can import from a BMFL to a Parcan, or from a Parcan to a BMFL. Obviously, the only thing that's going to work in that instance is going to be dimmer, because a Parcan only has dimmer in it, or if it's an LED Parcan, only has intensity and color. So obviously, that would be the only things that would work going either way. But if it's, you don't have to be the exact same kind of fixtures, even though they're going to be today, just because they are. Actually, I think that yeah, it is BMFLs to BMFLs today. So if we can either select one at a time and then map where we want it to go, or we can drag select across multiple and map them that way. And we can see that we can also narrow it down here if we want to just our dimmers. And actually, I think that's what I did. I put all these on here. Let's go ahead and undo that real quick. Oops, get out of this menu here. Come on, for why are you being a pain? Oh, it's because it's in the context menu, duh. I'm just going to clear the fixture mapping and clear all mappings real quick. And okay, so if we narrow it down by our types, we narrow it down to just dimmers, just the QPix panels. Come on. Computer's being a little slow today. To the BMFLs, the Robies, the LED stripes, or the spiders. So we'll click back on dimmer today. Come on. What's wrong with you? This computer's being awfully slow today. So we could do our dimmers like that, and we could map them all. So now that it would know whatever these 6 dimmers did in my old show, I wanted to do these to these 6 dimmers in my current show. And then I could do it to the BMFL blades. We'll do the same thing. And I can drag select like this again, and do it here. There's actually, you can double map. So since I have more BMFLs here than I had in my original show, so I can want to map these 2 to here, and then the last 2 to here, and now I've mapped to all my BMFLs. Let's say that I accidentally, this one I didn't mean to do. I could do, go into my clear fixture mapping again. And instead of clear all mappings, I can just click on the one that I want to get rid of. We'll say this one. And then hit exit and see it just got rid of that one there. But I can always redo it by remapping it again. And I'm just going to leave all the other fixtures off for now. Now if we click back on the show library tab up here, we can go through everything that's in my old show file, from the palettes to the groups, the positions, as well as any playbacks I have in it. So say we'll go ahead and we can do if we just click on these ones, say we want to import these ones here, I can click quick import. And if I go to my colors window here, we'll see that it just added those 3 color palettes to the end of to the first available handles in my color palettes window. Or if I wanted to do, I specifically wanted to put this one in a particular spot, I could do a copy, click on it, and then specifically put it right here, if that's where I wanted it to go for whatever reason. Yes, Sam, you looks like you were having a little bit of a premonition there. So if we reopen the show library window, we do the same thing with playbacks or the positions. I could just hit my positions and hit quick import. And then if I wanted to do playbacks, I could just click whatever I wanted and then hit quick import and go to the first empty playbacks I get finding, in this case here. Or I could just do copy or move, actually works also, and put them specifically right there. Whatever I wanted. For some reason, my labels did not, or my legends did not come out. Sometimes that happens, or they didn't have them. I don't know which. But I have seen an occasional hiccup where your legends won't copy over. But that's basically doing show import. Again, just remember you got to do that mapper. You can map multiple things too. Actually, I should actually show some of this stuff working now, huh? So if we reopen our capture window so we can see it, now we'll see that if I fire this playback, my BMFLs in my show file here do what they were doing in the other one, which apparently was that. I don't remember what any of these playbacks are in that particular show file, but we can see, but there we go. We get the basic idea here. As well as any of the palettes. So if we do BMFL blades, and we'll locate them so we can see them, Let me scroll down here. We use like this position palette, which doesn't look anything like that because I didn't very carefully do my mapping. I just kind of did it quickly for showing it, but there you get the idea there. So let me pause here to take a quick sip and read any questions y'all got. Yes, well, Arrow, what you were saying there, and Sam's got a point there. Yeah, I would do it chronologically. If I was importing more than one, or I would rename them, or I would just pay attention to what I was doing. Maybe that could be something to throw up on the ideas and features page. If Sam will toss up a link to that for me real quick, you can always go there and put it as an idea feature that it should have not just a show name but the save date, something along those lines. Let's see here. Any other questions in the show library stuff here that you guys may have? It's not a lot to explain here because it's really a pretty simple function. Extremely powerful, but really pretty doggone simple. It's not very hard at all. I know sometimes users think it's a super duper hard, but truly it's not. It's really just as simple as I've just shown. I can show. I guess we could do. Let's see here. I'm trying to find one of these playbacks that maybe. So let's do. So open up our show library again, and we're going to go ahead and clear our fixture mapping. And then let's say that we did these dimmers, and we map them to. Oh, what's a good thing to map them to here? We'll map them to these. So now if we I'll find a playback with something with those in there. I think the cue list has got in it. So in theory, if we fire this cue list now, we can see that our DL7s take this dimming information from those dimmers for every cue they're using in the cue list. But because I cleared my fixture mapping before I imported it, it's going to do it just what I had imported on that one, whereas this one still runs, even though it was the same cue list, it still only works for the, connect you to you. It only works for the BMFLs and doesn't do anything with the DL7s because I cleared their fixture mappings before I imported. So you can get different things to happen with your show import by changing the mapping in between importing. I hope that is making sense to you guys. So if we're good on that, I guess, since there don't seem to be any real questions on it, let's move on to chatting about user settings. and of course SIP. The user settings menu can be accessed from system mode and also from the program mode. Hold down the AVO key and then press soft key C for user settings. Window will open to show you user settings, or you can set the same options using the soft key options. User settings are individual for each user, so you can change the user from the screen. Clicking the I button for a help window on each setting. The options are divided into categories on the soft keys down the left-hand side of the window that pops up. The visualizer arrow for importing that, you would use capture settings. You would export it and import it from the capture settings window. So I'm going to switch back over to the mobile just for a second here. If we press and hold our AVO key, right click on the Titan Go interface, we can bring up our user settings. Now what I'm going to do here is with slides, I'm going to go through everything that can be done in the user. And we'll actually, now let's do it. I'll do it with the screen up and just read it from the slides. Everything I'll say in general is going to be on these I buttons here. So basically what we'll do is we'll just go through everything, and then you'll hopefully remember that, hey, there's a user setting that does that. And you can go in here and find it again. And if you're not sure if it was the right one or not, you can always just click that and get what everything says. So we'll start off in our, we'll just talk about the whole window here in our, there's nothing in our context menu on it, just double checking that. We can change our user, we can change the name of the user, we can add a user or import a user from another show file if we had a need for it. We've also got all of our different sections here that we can go through. So start off with chase snap. If enabled, the next step, previous step buttons will snap to the new state. If disabled, program phase will be shown. It's the same function as snap buttons, which is featured on some consoles. So the Quartz, Titan Mobile, and Titan Go interface do not have the snap buttons, but pretty much everything else does. If you want to use those, you can just engage it here. Same thing for keyless snap. If enabled, next step, previous buttons will snap to the new state. If disabled, program phase will be shown. Clear record mask sets whether the record mask is cleared back to all enabled when you enter the record function, or whether it remains as previously set. So just like we saw when we were mucking about with in there, we can when you're mucking about in the record menu there, you can set user settings so it will always remember the mask or forget it. This is one of those good ones to check if for some reason nothing seems to be recording. I seem to have had multiple support calls about that in the last month or two, where they have turned on this function. So clear mask is set to off, so they've turned that function off, and then when they've turned everything off in their record masks, it recorded absolutely nothing. So it's a good one to keep an eye on. Copy queues. Sets whether tracked values will copy when you copy a queue from a tracked queue list. We can have this basically have it copy tracked values or don't copy tracked values, so that basically you can have it make, you get tracked values come from queues 1, 2, and then Q3, and you go to copy Q3, whether it records all those values to make the look you currently see on stage, or only what's in Q3, been recorded in Q3. So that you can set that the way you need it to. Run playbacks on startup. When disabled, this overrides the playback option to run the playback at startup. So if you have some playbacks turned on at startup, you can turn them off globally this way, or turn them back on. System render rate in hertz. This was new for version 12. System frame rate used to render the output must be between 1 and 44 hertz. Basically, you can slow down your DMX here if you need to, if you've got some old dimmers that aren't playing nicely or something along those lines. Lock screen background, tap to set. This is where you can set a picture for your lock screen. So if we tap to set, then we can either quick draw, and I'm going to use my touch screen here, say, and then if I was to lock the console, we'll exit out of user settings for a quick second. And if I lock the console and give it a code of 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hit lock, we can see that now it has what I drew there is the hello. Then I can then type in 1, 2, 3, 4 to get out of that. If I go back into user settings, Instead of that, I could also use the keyboard and just type in something that I wanted to. I could go to the Mona Lisa and pick a. Did not like that. I go to the Mona Lisa and pick something in from here. If I click the folder icon, I can go to. I don't think I have any images on this. Do I have anything on the desktop? I do not. Documents? Yes, I've got one in here. So I could pick my Lego Queen and have that be my lock screen. So now if I lock the console 3, 4 and hit lock, we now see it's got Lego Queen as my lock screen. If I again, if you happen to forget what code you typed in, you can always use the standard Avolites BIOS password to unlock a desk. So I can type in 68340 and hit enter, and it will unlock the desk for me. That's 68340. That'll unlock any Avolites console that has been locked as a backup, so in case you forget. So go back into user settings and move on to handles. Oh wait, actually, one thing I forgot about on here, when you're setting the image, you can set your scaling mode here to be either no scaling, letterbox it, fill, or stretch. So you can have it stretch it out if you want. So you see the difference there. Well, you guys get the idea. I'm not going to sit here and muck about with that any longer. Let's move on to handles. Grandmaster Fader enabled, disabled. This sets where the Grandmaster Fader is enabled or disabled. Some consoles do not have this fader. It can be handy if it gets broken or you wish to disable it to avoid confusing inexperienced operators. Default setting is disabled. Tiger Touch and Arena have a Grandmaster Fader, and actually nothing else does. Delete default, either delete or unassigned. It says whether items are deleted when you press delete and double tap them, or whether they're released from the handle and become unassigned. Unassigned items can be reused from the show library, like we just saw. One thing to be aware of if you are using this, my favorite little nightclub in Vegas, Jewel, had switched this to unassigned, so every time we would delete something, we would just go to the show library. Well, they called us up one day and said the console was running very poorly, and we couldn't figure out why, so we flew on out there and were poking at it and realized that when I got done going through the show library, when I got tired of counting, I got to over 3,000 unassigned playbacks in the show file. So when you load a show file, it loads everything into RAM, just like we saw. We can fire things straight from the show library, so it loads them up there even if they're unassigned. So we went through and cleaned up the show file a whole bunch and made it so the console didn't run like dirt anymore. So if you are using unassigned hand, I'm not saying don't use it, but if you are using it, be aware that maybe sometimes you need to go in there and clean that bad boy out. Because remember, even if you delete something, you can always go into the show library and import from a previous version of the show to use it in your current version. So that's one thing to always remember. Prompt replace is sets with the console action when you try to save to a handle or playback is already used. Prompt for merge or replace the console will always prompt. Always merge the console will never prompt. Palettes always merge, the console will prompt unless you're saving a palette. I always like to leave this on always ask because I like to fat finger things and maybe I tapped the wrong one, so I'll have it just say it for me. Fixture halos, custom or auto. Sets whether custom halos are displayed on fixture buttons. Custom, only the user-defined custom halos are shown. Fixture buttons, are colored using the automatic fixture colors. Just to so you have either ones you do, or if we reopen the show library real quick, if we go to our fixtures, not show library, I want to go to patch view. Sorry. We see that all our fixtures have a colored halo here. You can either use these ones, which are assigned by the console, or the custom ones that you set. Either or, whichever makes you happy. Where are we? Handle buttons, large or small, normal, large, or supersize. You set whether the handles default when they're set to global to either use one of those 4 sizes. Same thing with text. Playback paging, always hold, never hold, and normal. Playback paging sets how a playback faders behave when you change the page with a playback active. Normal sets the normal mode for the console type. Always hold sets the normal behavior for non-motorized fader, which is everything except for a Sapphire Touch currently, where the fader keeps control of the active playback when the page is changed and has to be lowered to 0 before a playback of the new page can be fired. Never hold, which is standard behavior for motorized faders, again only the Sapphire Touch currently, where the fader always relates to the current page. To regain control of a page, playback from another page, you have to go back to that page. It level matches fader, which is done automatically by the motorized fader. When a playback is active from another page, the playback area goes purple, and the page number is shown at the top in light blue. We'll show that here in 1 second. I just want to say the last one here. Current handle world. This sets the current handle world. We'll play with handle worlds next week. But there was a change in setting here. Let's step back here and talk about playback paging. So, I'm just going to double tap release to release everything I have running. And we'll just go to page 1 here to make it a little more obvious. So if we have this set to normal, if the normal type for this console, which is going to be always hold, because it's a Titan Go interface. So if I bring this fader up and I change the page, we can see that the wall X up playback is still active. If I want to get to a playback that happens to be on here on page 2, I'd have to lower this fader down, and then I could get to a playback that's there. Like if I did move this to here, and I go back again. If I raise this one up, we go to page 2 here. This still has control of this X up look, so I'm still bringing it up and down. I'm still controlling this one. I bring it all the way down. Now I have that red and blue look on here instead. I'm back to page 1 again. Same thing. I got to bring this one all the way down, and then I can control what's on page 1 again. If I go back to user settings, and I go to handles, and I change this to never hold, which would be how it would usually be on a Sapphire Touch, let's say. If I fire this playback up here, and then I change my page to page 2, we see that it's turned purple here. That lets you know that, hey, you got something active on another page still. So if I drop this fader to 0, which is where this current red and blue one is, I now bring it up. I can see that I have control of the red and blue one, and the X'd up one is still, well, it's not ready anymore because actually all those fixtures got controlled by this one instead. But if I go here, I have to level match it, then bring it down, and it'll turn off. I go back up. The Titan Go interface does not show the page number, but it does on everything else. That's why you didn't see it turn blue and change, I'd say the page number there is because the Titan Go interface does not show that. I'm going to take a quick pause before we move on to the key profiles handle and check and see if you guys have any questions that haven't been answered yet. Looks like Sam is keeping on top of any questions that have basically been had there. So I will continue on here. On the key profiles, this allows you to select and edit key profiles using the soft keys. We saw that yesterday. If you need more help in this section, go back and watch the video from yesterday. Patching. Patching warn before parking fixtures. This sets the console action when you patch a fixture which overwrites the DMX channels of another fixture. This causes the overwritten fixture to be parked. Always, the console will warn you. Never, the console will park fixtures without warning you. Again, I like to leave this on always in case I tap in a wrong number. I'd rather have the console go, hey, did you mean to do that? Rather than just do it and then me be really confused why nothing works later. Auto groups. DMX address shown or hide on the fixture pages. You can have either show or hide the DMX addresses. I usually leave this on hide because after I'm done patching, I don't care what the DMX address is anymore. But if we close this and we go to our fixtures and groups page, we'll bring that up real quick here. And I go back to patching. I quick change this to show. Obviously, now it shows the address of the fixtures on the fixture buttons. You can also get to this to the context menu. Have it either hide or show there. I see that it went away. So, continuing on. This computer is not happy with me today. I don't know what its deal is. She's running a little slow, boys. Auto group sets whether the console will automatically create new groups when new fixtures are patched. You can turn that off around here or in the patching menu. Preset palettes don't create on workspaces. Create on presets. Basically, if you can have it, the console add them or not. I usually turn this on when I'm patching because why not let the console make some basic palettes for me that I'm going to make anyway. So just let it make them and save me a couple of seconds of time. Under the times menu, or the times tab, sorry. Tempo units sets the display units, the units for displaying the tempo. The options are beats per minute or seconds. Connected view sets the console action when you change the speed of a connected chase. Chase view sets temporary speed, means that when the console will not save the modified speed, the next time the chase is fired, it will go back to its program speed. Connected view sets chase speed, means that the console will modify the save speed of its chase, which is the default. It will automatically save it for you. I like to leave that on, so if I change the speed of my chase, it automatically saves it. I can also I can change it anytime I really wanted to. Preload time, you can change this between to whatever you want. Preload default's going to be 2 seconds. So if you use the preload key profile, like we talked about yesterday, it'll do that preload in 2 seconds. So it'll take 2 seconds for your fixtures to move into position, or you can change it to a lower one if you need to. Kind of depends on your show what you need to use there. Times format sets the selects between hour, minute, seconds format and pure seconds format. In the hour, minute, seconds format, the console will convert any number you enter into hours, minutes, and seconds. Compensate for rate grandmaster if on, which is the default. When a tempo is tapped on the BPM master, will not be affected by the rate grandmaster being set to less than 100%. I like to leave this on so that when I'm trying to tap my 60 BPM, if I've accidentally knocked my rate grandmaster down to 98%, I actually get 60 BPM out of it rather than trying to instead of getting 58 or whatever. I'll continue on to the formatting tab. Formatting unit, or channel levels set in tens or set in units. Channel level sets in tens. Enter 1 digit for the channel level, i.e. 5 equals 50. Channel unit set in units. I enter 2 digits, i.e. 50 equals 50. So you may have noticed if we let's get back to a good workspace for this. If we select our BMFLs and we type @50, enter, it puts our intensity at 50%. Also, if we do the same thing and then did tapped @ twice, it takes us straight to 100%. A little trick there for you. I guess there's some older theater-based consoles that we would just take 5 and hit enter, and we would get, or @5 enter, and we get 50%. Seems weird to me, but if that's what makes you happy, that's what makes you happy. So you can do that. Number style says how channels are values are displayed in the queue list, in the queue view and palette view. Precise will include all decimal points. Rounded will round to the nearest whole number. Dynamic shows all decimal points. Shows decimal points where appropriate, removing trailing zeros. I usually just leave this on dynamic. Under the palettes tab, I'm getting really dry mouth today. Quick palettes enables disables the quick palette function. Remember, the quick palettes is if we don't have any fixtures selected. And if we don't have any fixtures selected and we have them up, that works. And we tap a palette such as our red palette here. And since that's a normal palette, it only affected our BMFLs. If we hit a global or shared a global palette like this one here, it would turn anything that can go go green would go green. So even if we had, let's just make a playback that's much less annoying than this. Oh, golly, I forgot to change that back. So if we just select everything here and go to locate and record, fixture mode is perfect. Go to there, hit clear. So we have no fixture selected with this normal palette, with this red palette here, and actually it's a normal palette, actually includes everything. If I hit it here, we see that everything except for our QPix panels go red. If we tap this one here, which is a global palette, anything that can go green does go green. Same thing here. These are shared palettes. It still has everything in them. But like if we go to all white, we fire this one, we see that only the BMFLs that are in it actually go to it because it's a quick palette in normal. Going back to the user settings, I hope that didn't get too long-winded or confusing. Golly, this poor computer today. Minimum palette mode sets with the global or shared palettes can be created when recording palettes. Uses the Forza console to store all palettes as shared. So you can change that here if you wish. You can also do it in the palette menu. Continuing on, add new palette channels. Sets where the new channels are added into palettes will be added to playbacks using those palettes. Auto legend sets where the new items will automatically have legends generated for them. Color scribbles for colors. Gobo images for Gobo fixtures that have them, or descriptive legends for other functions. Highlight active palettes. Sets where the active palettes are shown as highlighted in the workspace windows. You can turn that off or on. You may have noticed when we are mucking about with fixtures here, if I selected these ones and hit a locate and then fire the red palette, we can see that I have clicked on that red palette. So you can turn that off if you want to. I don't know why you'd want to, but you could. Filter relative palettes. Sets whether the console will filter out palettes which you don't apply, and they will be grayed out. So like if we do the same thing again here, and we select our QPix panels, we see that all these other color palettes do not contain information for the QPix panels. Only these two do. So it filters out all the rest. Again, I don't know why you'd want to shut that off, but if you don't like it, you could. Master palette time, master palette overlap. Just another place to change those, like we've shown in previous videos, where we can change it with either time, with the other palettes, or we're hitting our palette hard key here. Recorded nested palettes. Sets, if enabled, palettes containing other source palettes will be updated when you change the source palette. We talked about nested palettes in the video we did on palettes. Preset palettes on workspaces or not, just another place to do it like we saw in the patching one. Continue on to the release tab. Release to home if enabled. When the last playback is released, fixtures will return to their home values. If disabled, LTP channels will remain set. Master release time sets the default release time. Default is 2 seconds. Release priority you can set to either low, high, low, normal, high, programmer, or very high. Continuing on to the clear tab. Auto reset mask, with enabled, the clear mask will reset to include all attributes after every clear, just like we saw in the record menu. Zero preset fader levels, enabled intensity levels set on fixtures patched to fader handles, which is usually only going to be a Perl expert. Will be zeroed when clear is pressed. If disabled, the variables remain set, but will be removed from the programmer. Release the playback values. If enabled, LTP channels will release to the values set in the last playback when clear is pressed. If enabled, LTP channels will not change when clear is pressed. That's basically how you make it act like the other guys, which I still think our way is the better way to have clear act. But if you wanted to have it act like a Mara Hog when you hit clear, that is the user setting you change. Actually, I'm going to talk about that for a quick moment because I don't think I talked about it in the clear video. So if you use this to make it act like the other guys, my question to everyone is, why do you want it to act like the other guys? I think the Ava way is the better way, because if I've got a whole lot of busking going on, I'm not afraid to hit clear because my whole console is not going to drop off and have everything go to home positions just because I hit clear on accident. With a Ava, the worst going to happen is LTP or HTP values, which is only dimmer, are going to drop to 0. But if I'm busking, I've got all my fixture handles, all my fixtures on group masters anyways, so that's not an actual problem for me. So that is my opinion, and you can tell me that I suck for it, but that's my opinion. I think the Ava way is the much better way. So let's move on. Clear queue times, clear rate direction, clear rate settings, and clear direction. If you put times, rate, or direction into the programmer, you can have it either remember or clear those. Continuing on to the effects tab. Swap shapes. All shapes are just intensity shapes. All shapes running from other playbacks will be stopped. Intensity shapes, only intensity shapes from other playbacks will stop. This has been using the blue swap button by default. Shape behavior, either overlay or LTP. Overlay shapes continue to run over attribute changes. LTP later changes stop the shape from changing the attribute. So say if you had a circle running and with your pen and tilt pointing out towards front of house, when you change that center point off to stage left, either continue doing the circle or stop doing the circle and just point to stage left. Under the LED tab, fixture LEDs, it sets how the LED behaves when a fixture is patched to a fader handle. Show occupation, the LED shows handle empty in selection state. Mimic intensity, the LED shows fixture level intensity. Again, you're only going to see that you more than likely, the only time you're ever really going to see is if you're using a Perl Expert and it patched up to the handle. Same thing with these other two. What it does in relationship to the setting on the top one there. If you're actually using a Perl Expert and need to talk about it, we can talk about it. We can talk about it directly. Since most people aren't going to be using Perl Experts anymore, I'm not too worried to skip talking about it. Under the timecode tab, we've got kill out of range playbacks. When set a playback fired by timecode will be killed when the last timecode value is passed. So if it's past that, it'll turn it off for you. MIDI device ID sets the device ID when you're using MIDI show control, so you can set the MIDI ID of this console. MIDI glitch detection, MIDI tolerance, and glitch tolerance and glitch timeout. These are things if you're having trouble with your MIDI, you can muck about with to try to clean up your MIDI signal. And the last page we have is wheels. Wheel sensitivity, adjust the sensitivity of the encoder wheels, and the pan and tilt threshold settings can be adjusted using this option. The wheel sensitivity is shown on wheel A, and the current level is shown in the display. So if we click on that, we can see that our wheel setting is shown here. So we can turn it up or down to adjust the sensitivity of the wheels. I'm usually pretty happy with the default, but if you think you want to change it, you obviously can. Whoops, there's this all the way out of there. Golly, this computer's acting silly. Pan and tilt threshold. Pan and tilt threshold enables or disables the pan and tilt threshold options shown below. Pan threshold sets the sensitivity of the pan control above. If the above option is enabled, large numbers make pan work slower. Ditto, but for tilt. So basically, if you want to have the sensitivity of your pan when you're using the wheels for pan and tilt, you can adjust their sensitivity. Some fixtures will get a little twitchy, some don't. Auto connect off chases lists or chases and lists. You may have noticed that every time we've fired a queue list, oops, we don't have a programmer running, and we'll do QQ and release. We'll see that when we fire this queue list, it automatically connects to our wheels. If you just wanted to release whatever is on your wheels, tap Q twice. Or the same thing with a chase. I think I've got a chase in here somewhere. And apparently I don't. But if we had a chase, it would be the same thing. So you have it either auto connect or not. Auto view on connect, same thing, but have the view automatically pop up. So if we turn this on, when we fire this queue list, we can see that it only connects to our wheels and brings up my queue list view. Kind of handy if you need that in your show. Press and hold fan. If this changes the fan function so that it only works while the fan button is held. This avoids the common user error of leaving fan turned on on accidentally. With this one, the default is to not have it on. So if you turn fan on, it stays on while you're inside that attribute group. So if we have our fixtures here, and we're in pan and tilt, and we turn on fan. If I change to color, it turns fan off, but otherwise it'll stay on until you turn it off. I usually leave it as the default, which is just on, or just you have to be in fan mode, because I swear as soon as I change it to the other way, I want it back the way it originally was, so I just end up leaving it as the default, and I've gotten used to it over 25 years of programming AVOs. So that, my friends, is everything in the user settings menu. So we'll take a quick pause while I get a sip in, and then we will see if there's any questions and answer any direct question you guys may have. Mark, group masters are you right in thinking these are typically used for dimmer intensity of fixtures and groups? Yeah, basically. Basically, you can take any group and copy it to a fader, and it is now a fader for that group of items. So, since we got a little bit of time here, let's just hop on over, and we'll just show that. So if I hit clear here, and we'll see that if I select this group of fixtures and hit locate, you can see it's just those back ones there. If I hit this group, you can see it's the middle ones, and this group is the front BMFLs. So I'm going to go to an empty page of faders here. So if I press copy and then select these groups and then put them to a faders. No, I didn't like doing it that way. So probably because it's vertical. So if we just do copy U to U, copy, and we'll use latch menu, U to U, and then U to U. And we turn off the latch menu and exit out of there. We can now see that these are set to scale master by default, and we're going to do playback options. And select the first one and the last one. Select the first one and the last one. Oh, come on, really? Stop being a pain in my butt. Right click and click. Fine, let's do one at a time then. Set them to HTTP master. So now we'll see that these control each of those groups of faders, or each of those group of fixtures are on their own fader. So I could be any group. I could make a group specifically just for the, for stuff. I could use the all group. Basically, I would just have a master of a fader to control those groups, depending on which different type I had it set to. Watch the video on masters to learn more than that. Yes, user settings are only for the current show file and the current user. They're not for the console. They are stored in the user in the show file. So just that show file and just that user. To import shows, Corey, you have to map. Otherwise, importing doesn't work unless you're just using global, just importing global stuff. We can go back over it / you can watch the video again, but basically, so if we open up our show library window again here, and we've got it up here, so if we're going up the mapper, basically we just have to tell our current show what we want the shows from our other show, what fixtures match up to our current show. So again, it could be, they don't have to be the same type like we did here. We did dimmers to DL7s, and of course the only thing that worked was dimmer because that's all a dimmer had. Didn't have pan tilt and colors, so obviously that's the only thing that's going to work on it. But we could do it with our BMFLs, and we could map them to the spiders if we wanted to. So actually, here we'll select all our BMFLs and map them to our spiders. And then since we got two more spiders, we'll map our first one and our last one to the last two because that's just what makes sense. So now anything I import, these whatever these BMLs were doing in those palettes or those playbacks, these spiders are going to do in my current show file. So if I was go to the show library for this one and I chose this position palette, so I do copy here, and we'll go to we'll put it right there. So now if I locate my spiders and hit this position palette, they're going to do the equivalent of what that one was. Now they're not hung the same as those fixtures were in their other show file. That's why they don't look exactly the same, because I didn't take my time to really do it more proper. But does that make sense there, Corey? And that's really all there is to it. You just have to basically tell your current show what you want your old fixtures from the fixtures from your old show, what you want your current show's fixtures to do, whether it's for a palette or a playback. Does that make it a sense? Yes, as Sam said, you cannot currently import workspaces or macros. I believe there's a thread for it already in the ideas and users in the ideas page. Go upload it and hopefully get it added. I talked to the devs about it last year. Why we can't import workspaces, because in the past when you could only do 4 windows at a time, it wasn't that important. Now we have much more complex workspaces thanks to the grid size after version 10. It's become a lot more important for us to have it. And I think that if we upload it hard enough, we can actually get the devs to work on it and make it happen, because that would be kind of nifty. And macros can also not be, as Sam already said it though, macros can also not be imported currently. There is a workaround to that. If you go to the avolights.de /wiki and you read the macro section, Seb has built a wonderful tool that you can export the macros and then re-import them into other show files. It's pretty handy, but you will need to use his tool to do it currently. Again, I believe there's a thread on the ideas and features page to get on there and upvote that bad boy, and maybe we can just get it added and not have to then I will no longer have to say, no, you can't do that anymore. So, do we have any? Yes, he is, and that's why Seb has been kind enough to join us next Tuesday when we do macros, because having Seb on while I do macros is going to be a godsend, because I know all of you will ask the hardest macro questions in the world while he's on, and he will make me not look so foolish because I'll just make him answer all those questions. So, any other questions? Allow one or two off the wall ones if you have those too that aren't necessarily related to what we've been over today. We'll answer those and then we'll call it a day. So you guys got a minute or two to get those in, and then we'll, if we don't get any, we will sign out for the day. I like all kinds of vans: cargo vans, custom vans, uh, those vans that you make like all pimped out so you go camping in them. Maybe that's not what you meant. Well, apparently y'all are an extremely quiet bunch today, so we're going to go with letting. We'll go ahead and let today. Oh, wait, we might have a question here. While you're making it in the programmer, no. You cannot tap tempo a keyframe shape while you're making it in the programmer. It doesn't work that way. There's no BPM Grandmaster, only a rate Grandmaster. So there is not a way to tap tempo a keyframe shape while in the programmer still. Just record it, tap the tempo, and then you can always just use the include to pull it back into the programmer and change it to whatever tap tempo speed you find out it needs to be. Or just assign it to BPM master and tap the tempo and call it a day. That's the way I usually just handle it. I just usually leave them on the default speed of 30 BPM, and then I just tap tempo with the BPM master at showtime and make it go as I want it to go. Apparently my hot water heater just kicked in, so if you guys hear that, I'm sorry. But to avoid that being a problem, we're going to go ahead and sign out for the day because we don't really have any more questions and we've been through the material. So with that, my friends, we will call it a day. We're going to take the weekend off and come back at you on Monday. And that's going to show us, let's see here. If we scroll on down, doobie-doo. Whoops, scroll right past it, I tell you. We're going to do networking, multi-user, and backup, and DMX merge on Monday, followed by Tuesday with our useful features and macros with Mr. Sebastian joining us and helping me not look so foolish during macros. Then we're going to go on to external control, timecode triggers, and Winamp, which Gordon did a great video on this morning, but I'm going to do it on Wednesday in my style and just to complete this series of training videos anyways. Then we're going to do set list. The next Friday we're going to have a freeform Q&A, which I'll try and drag Sam and Gordon again in on, and we can have a tag team of 3 trainers there to answer any questions you come up with. I will just do it all together as a team. And don't forget, we can always, you can find all of these videos when they're coming on the Avalites online resources, the avalites.us/training events page, and also the YouTube channel where I upload these videos afterwards and hopefully remember to record them in HD. But today, I don't think today it's going to matter if it's in HD or not, so it's probably going to get uploaded in low quality so we don't miss the first few minutes since I forgot to start recording. I'll get myself into that habit. I need to make I wonder if I can make a macro in OBS that'll automatically start it for me. Yeah, I know I didn't forget to skip any doggone slides. I'm keeping you all way too sober, especially for a Friday night. I'm sorry. Here, maybe I'll do this, and oh no, I'll talk about something else, and there's drink. I'm on the wrong screen, right? I think I'm going to go have a drink because it is Friday night, and I hope you all join us on Monday for our next video. Until then, thanks for coming out. There was a wrong. I did the opener instead of the closer.
Wheel stop. Roger, wheel stop, Discovery. Welcome back. A great ending to the new beginning.